Hello everyone, I'm here to talk about part 4 of my V2k experience, and I'm going to talk about I guess the mind games that they had these creeps or perpetrators had played with me from time to time. I remember this happened. It was also during the summer of 2004. I was 15 years old, and I had no clue what I guess a hysterectomy was at that time. But I remember when it first started, these creeps kept on telling me stuff like, "Oh, with this device, we can kill you. We can give you a hysterectomy," and they focused on that, and they're like, "Oh, you won't be able to have any kids and whatnot." And they told me like, "Oh, we gave you a hysterectomy or whatnot." And honestly, at that, I didn't understand what it was. So, like, if they had told me this now, I'd be like, "That's ridiculous." But they told me that they could do that with this through the device, and I was freaking out. I told my mom, and she was like, "Where? How can you get a hysterectomy?" Because my mom's a nurse, so she knew that's not possible. But I was convinced, honestly convinced that that had happened to me. So my mom actually took me to Kaiser to check because yeah, to took me to Kaiser because I had like pretty much was convinced that I had a hysterectomy or whatever it was. And then I went to the doctor and they checked me out and just to check if I had hysterectomy. And I guess what I was saying was pretty bizarre, but I honestly did not understand what it was. And I was only 15 years old, so I was really shocked. Like I was like I didn't understand what it was. So when I heard hysterectomy, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. And they gave me a hysterectomy. And when I think about it today, I'm like, whoa, that's ridiculous. That's not possible. Well, I don't know if I don't think it's possible, but they kept on saying stuff like that, and I was thoroughly convinced, honestly convinced that I had a hysterectomy. I went to the doctor. Oh man, it was a very crazy experience. Also, I don't know. Also was convinced that I would have because they told me that I would get like brain cancer during that time. So also um I also told my mom that I was scared I was gonna get brain cancer or whatnot. So I actually arranged and got a CAT scan through Kaiser once again. So during that summer, it was a busy summer for me in the hospital because yeah, I was really freaking out because they told me stuff. I don't know if I can get brain cancer, but I know when they checked and gave me a CAT scan, I had nothing wrong with me. But that was like it was quite a while ago, like almost 10 years ago. So yeah, so that's one of the things that these creeps have done. They've also done other things to try to mess with my head and try to make me more like not necessarily paranoid, but trying to make me feel like they could kill me. I know one of the goals was for me to commit suicide, but they really wanted to mess with me. And then yeah, and also I was like I was still thinking kind of crazily back then, so it was a lot of stuff. I was almost like not necessarily hysterical, but I was really convinced that I would get I was had a hysterectomy. Right now when I think about it, it sounds ridiculous, but that's one of the tricks that they had done back then. And I think they did on purpose to mess with me because these creeps, I'm pretty sure I'm convinced that they're like in their late 20s or early 30s back then. And also, one of the things that they also did, I don't know if this is a mind game. I think this could be true. I think this is true. So remember they said that, yeah, one the goal, like, the goal was for me to try to commit suicide, and then I was like thinking very like crazily, so all my thoughts didn't make sense, and I was aware of it, but I couldn't control it. And I remember these creeps thought it would be like they thought it was funny that like my thoughts weren't cohesive, and they thought, oh wow, she thinks like a crazy person, it's funny. And remember they told me like, oh, I'm gonna make 27 more of these because it's so funny, other people will find it funny also. And I don't know, I think that's what they did. I'm not 100% sure, of course, but I think that's what they did. Yeah, and also I remember like during the time I would be crying, and like, especially during the first few days, I was like begging them to stop. And I remember they felt like, oh, they felt powerful and they started laughing, like, oh, they almost felt like they wanted to feel like God. Like that's how they were. Like, oh, they wanted to feel like God. So when I was like begging to stop it, I guess they felt powerful, and I guess they felt like they're godly because they had the power to keep it on or stop it during that time. And yeah, even though yeah, they're still, yeah, these creeps are still bugging me up to this very day. But I feel like as I've grown older and more mature, and then my thoughts have become more clear, it's a little bit different. But I'm just happy I'm becoming more vocal about it. At least finding ways to become more vocal about it. But yeah, and then I remember I would try to beg them, like, oh, could you please stop? A long time, like it was beg them. Of course, I want them to stop. I want, honestly, I really want them to stop. But I remember they would say, "Oh, it's never gonna," like they would say, "Oh, it's never gonna end." They're telling this to me, of I think purposely to try to break my spirit, so I'll commit suicide. Because I think that's what the end goal is. They want me to commit suicide. Because like I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm a very kind of optimistic person, and they don't like that about me. Because they felt like, I remember I told this in the first video. They felt like within that summer that they would have been dead. Like I would have been committed suicide. Oh, within the first year actually. And it hasn't been that way, and they were really frustrated about that because they thought they'd be done, maybe do this to someone else. They probably are doing it to someone else, but they thought it would be easy for me to break me, and it hasn't been the case. And I think they're really frustrated by it. Also, about the 27 more, I actually do believe that because I remember like it did something similar. It did. They were continuing my life since then, but I remember in 2008 it became kind of crazy for me again. And also they I would hear them, but I didn't kind of put the two words together. And they said like, oh, I hope we can sell them, so we'll be really rich, we'll be millionaires if we're able to sell these devices. I think, yeah, she's really funny and whatnot. They said that. So thinking back on it, if they're able to sell them, they probably were able to make 27 more of those devices. And I really do believe, because I remember recently, like I was like, it's at 4 a.m., so they probably thought I was asleep, or I was kind of in and out of sleep. But I did overhear them saying that if they would testify, they'll have to testify for Epsilon Urging Company, which, when I think about it now, like, I don't understand how someone would be able to obtain such a device like that. It's not going to be, it's like, either in the black market, it's not readily available. So I figured they probably had connections to a company back then, but I didn't put the pieces together so recently. So I remember they said stuff like that, like, oh, we're gonna make 27 more because people think it's funny. And I honestly think that they did, just to try to make my life more miserable, because they're really evil people. And also, yeah, they did say that, like, oh, we're gonna become millionaires off of it. And then they're like, oh, I hope it becomes like big huge again so we can sell it and become millionaires off of it. And that's one of the things. Even though they did want to commit suicide, but I guess they thought if it's like crazy, and I'm thinking crazy, it would be lucrative for them too. Also, yeah, I don't know. I felt there's a lot of motives for them to just try to destroy my life. If they're, well, I don't believe that they're not going to, because I'm not gonna break for anyone. But yeah, so that's all I have to say for this part, for part 4, and I'm gonna come back with part 5 shortly. Thank you.